Hello everyone, how are we doing today? Good afternoon from my side, and this is Dynamic Awareness. My name is Juliet and you're welcome to this video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the different types of dairy fats. So that is what we're going to be looking at. The different types of dairy fats. So as we all know that fats are very important. They have a lot of function to play in our health, in our body functions. So consuming fat doesn't mean that it's going to lead to weight gain if you are really getting the good ones. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the different types of fat so that you can understand the kind of fat that is very good for your body and to make the healthy choice when it comes to fats. So as you know that our diet, the food we eat, are made up of four main types of fats. They are made up of four main types of fats. And these include saturated fats. So when you come to the first types of fats, saturated fat occur naturally in many foods. So there are natural food that you eat that contain this saturated fat. They mainly occur in form of solid fats. Why? Because they are usually solid at room temperature. These types of fats, when you keep them in the room for a long time, you will discover that they will become solid. This is their natural characteristics. So, the majority of this saturated fat come from animal fats. That is animal sources. But there are some plant-based oil that are also high in this saturated fat. So to really understand what food contain this saturated fat, I'm going to give us some list of foods that contain saturated fat, like beef. Sometimes when you buy beef and you cook the beef with maybe the oil. That is what we call the oil of the oil from the beef. You will discover that it will become very soft. After a while, you leave it for a time, it will become solid. So these are animals fat that is very high in saturated fat. Pork, they are also high in saturated fat. And poultry with skin, like your chicken with skin. The skin of that chicken also is high in saturated fat. We have lamb, we have cream, we have butter, we have lard, we have cheese, and even milk. All milk, 2% of it is saturated fat. Ice cream, baked food, like all these cakes, fried foods, like French fry and other food that is fried, palm oil, coconut oil, they are very, very high in this saturated fat. So that when you know that this saturated fat is bad for the body, they are also good if you are consuming it in moderation. So because excess consumption of this saturated fat can raise your risk of some health issues. So the next types of fat is the trans fats. When it comes to trans fats, this trans fat also occur naturally in some foods, but most of them are found in processed food that have already been processed and packaged, especially those you buy from the supermarkets that have already been prepared. So this is what we call the trans fat, and artificial trans fat, because these fat, they are made with hydrogen. And when you add hydrogen to any form of vegetable oil, it made them to be more solid. So the process of adding hydrogen to this vegetable oil is what is called hydrogenation. And some food manufacturers, people that are specialized in manufacturing food, those food manufacturing industries, they normally use this trans fat due to its advantage to their food processing business. And some of this advantage of this trans fat to these food suppliers is because by the time they add hydrogen to this vegetable oil, it makes it more solid. And in this case, they are more easier to work on. They can work on this oil because they can use it over and over again in order to reduce cost. Just a kind of is a inexpensive, and it is a economic in use because they use it over and over for a long time, and because it is long lasting, so they can use maybe a particular oil to make different food for a long time. So this trans fat also give the food they prepared, the food that is being prepared by this food manufacturer, so unique flavor that you get. That's a kind of flavor you get from those food, those aromas you get from this food, and at the same time, it also give them a desirable texture. So, example of this food and fast food chain uses this oil. They normally use this trans fat in deep fryers. And when they deep fry it, because the oil can be used over and over again, so this make it to be more economical for them, long lasting, minimizing cost. So remember, it is always sometimes not easy, especially people that normally reach out to processed food, because this processed food is very easy to pick. Because majority of us, we don't normally like to cook, so they can just reach out for all those quick prepared food. So if you are someone that normally like to buy or purchase those processed food, it is very, very difficult sometimes to tell if a food contains trans fat. And for you to be able to know this, it's good to read the nutritional fat or profile of a particular food. And sometimes food that contain 0 gram of trans fat, sometimes it means that as long as they contain less than 0.5 gram of trans fat, so it can be that it doesn't contain trans fat. But if you are able to spot a food that contains trans fat by looking at partially hydrogenated fat written on the pack, partially hydrogenated oil written on the pack, it means that packaged food contain partially hydrogenated oil, and at the same time it contain trans fat. So trans fat, it is no longer healthy for you. It's no longer healthy. These are the kind of oil or fat that normally raise your risk of heart issues, heart clogging, arteries, blocking the arteries, and can also raise your chances of developing some complicated health issues. So, example of food that normally contain the trans fat include fried food. food that are fried, whether meat or no, anything that is fried, especially even when you go to some restaurants and those food that are fried, French fried, they contain this trans fat. And I said, and donuts, baked food, cake, meat pies, biscuit, frozen pizza, cookies, crackers, microwave popcorn, name them all, they all contain this trans fat as far as you can see them being packaged. So you need to read the nutritional profile so that you will be well informed of the kind of fat you are taking in. And the other type of fat is the unsaturated fats. So when it comes to unsaturated fats, these are usually liquid oil at room temperature. So when you keep this saturated oil in the room, they will be liquid. But after a while, they will begin to turn solid. Only when you keep them in the fridge or in a chill place where they are cold. So they begin to turn solid. So when you come to this unsaturated fat, they can also be grouped as a healthy fat for you. And they come in two ways, two types of saturated fat, which are monounsaturated fats. So monounsaturated fats, they are found in varieties of plant-based oil, not animals. They are found in plant-based oil, including olive oil, canola oil, peanut oil, sunflower oil, sesame oil, avocado, peanut, nut, and seed. So this oil is very good for your health. Why? Because they do not contain a lot of these animal fats, and because they are not as solid as the other saturated fat. So the other types of this unsaturated fat is the polyunsaturated fat, and they are also found mainly in plant-based oil like soya oil, corn oil, walnuts, sunflower, and tofu. So consuming this oil can also reduce your risk of health complications. That is why when you are buying any type of oil, share the nutritional profile. It will tell you whether it is polyunsaturated or monounsaturated. So this can be best used in order for your body to gain more of this fat for body function. So in my next video, I will talk about the difference between oil and cholesterol and other health issues that are completely with unhealthy, and the type of oil that you need. So thank you for joining, and have a blessed day. Bye.